One Scott Rockwell is in there. Ottoman Keller had a...
Yeah, I want to remember all that, but that's this older man. And,
Did you ever see those ones?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
What?
Did you ever see these boxes?
But different countries have different materials available for coloring. So that if you study them enough, you can look at the colors and pretty well guess which country they was made in.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, anytime. Do it again. Anytime you're ready. That's good. Can we do that one more time?
Sure. Ready?
Yeah.
Once you peel them and you get that wax finish on them.
All right.
You know, oh, that's great. I got time.
Okay, anytime you're ready.
Yeah, you can find them in the woods, you know, and you cut them off. The one you should leave them dry for a while after you cut it off. You take the bark off.
All right. Be a minute.
Sometimes it's quite easy to take.
So then these are the things they would trade with the Indians?
Yeah, this stuff here is all beads and stuff between. Now the Indians really like fancy stuff. Now this stuff was all made by Europe or China.
was that one?
But they really like all that fancy stuff. But they never had it, you know. And like the necklace here, they really go for stuff like this. All this fancy.
You let me know when you're ready then. You're going to get a lawnmower.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do this. Not loud enough.
Okay.
Well, now the funny noises are gone.
Well, yeah, but he's coming back again.
Well, just talk to me here.
Okay. Well, we start bundling our Indian corn. We bundle it in groups of 3. 3 is a very significant number in Indian lore. Even the teepee is put together with 3 poles tied together called their tripod, and all the other poles are connected in the notches of that tripod. As Christians today believe in the Trinity, meaning 3, Indians also did a lot of things in 3. When they had their tripod set for their teepee and they had the poles up, there was a connecting rope that was wrapped 3 times with the sun. So things that you take for granted today had a meaning yesterday. How's that?
Okay, I'll demonstrate how to start a fire with flint and steel. As you know, matches weren't invented 200 years ago. This is the steel, and this is the flint, which is just a chip of rock. Those sparks we get are little pieces of steel that the stone knocks loose. And what we're going to use, need a piece of charred cloth. This charred cloth will catch the spark and make a glow, but it will not flame. And this other material is scraps from making linen cloth, and they will not catch the spark, but they will flame. So we'll put them together so we can start a fire. No. Got it. Haven't got it. No hurry. No hurry. Good, I guess. Yeah. Here's helping so much of Main Street traffic more. That's good. Go ahead. Okay. These guns that they used 200 years ago were flintlocks. And the reason they were called flintlocks is because they used a flint and a piece of steel to make the spark to ignite the powder and to make the gun fire. This particular gun is a copy of an English-style trade gun. Now this would be this frizzen on the gun, which is the steel. The flint is in the jaws of the hammer here. So when you pull the trigger, the jaw strikes, the flint strikes the steel and makes a spark. And there was some priming powder went in this pan, and there's a hole goes into the barrel right here to fire the main charge. The main charge was dumped down, you dump powder down the barrel of the gun, and then you used a round ball with a cloth patch to make it fit tight. And use this ramrod to push it all down tight on top of the powder. After it was rammed down, you put a little bit of powder in here out of a priming pan, close the prison, and then the gun was ready to fire. And then when the opportunity or the need came to fire it, you pull the hammer back, full cock, pull the trigger, and it would fire. All right, anytime you're ready. Okay, this is the ball bag from my shooting pouch, and these are the balls. This particular balls are the right size for a .40 caliber rifle. This is one that was carried the coarse powder for the main powder charge. And to load the rifle, you would have dumped the powder out of the horn into the powder measure, and then the powder was dumped down the gun barrel from a measure, so you would be at the exact same amount of powder each time. And then for the powder in the priming powder in the priming pan, we used powder out of this priming horn. And now this powder is much finer. So the finer powder will burn quicker. It'll catch the spark from the flint and burn easier than the coarse powder would. Okay. Hairy thing? Want to try that? That big hairy thing is a bearskin hat.
Watch out, this man's filming. Ooh, what is all this?
What is that?
Oh, neat.
Okay.
That's a real bear skin hat?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me feel it. Oh, bet you that would keep you warm in winter, wouldn't it?
Yeah. What is that?
This is called a crooked knife. The Indians would have traded to the white man and got these crooked knives, and it could be used for all kinds of chores. Remember, they didn't have very many tools to work with. So the crooked knife they could use to carve bowls out of wood and so forth with. This one here,
Amanda.
this one is called a Hudson's Bay dagger. The trading companies traded a lot of these to the Indians. It would have been, the Indians would have got it without the handle, and then they could use it for either a knife or a spear.
Can you imagine getting stabbed with that?
This one isn't too sharp, but it could be sharpened.
That would really hurt, wouldn't it?
What about the small one?
The small one? This just a utility knife would have been used to prepare their food with, cut meat and so forth.
What is your necklace? Are those bear claws or what?
Yes, those are black bear claws.
Wow, look at how big their claws are. Whoa.
And the grizzly bears in the west would have been much larger. A lot of their claws were about this long.
How about the pizza slicer?
Watch the knives, girls.
What about the pizza slicer?
The pizza slicer.
It looks like what?
What's this one here?
That's the pizza slicer.
It's a French trade knife. It would have been the type of knife probably the French would have brought over and traded the Indians.
What's that?
This one is a German knife. What this? That's candle.
And that's
Okay, that's a fork, cooking fork or whatever. It was made by a blacksmith, just a handmade fork.
neat.
What are
And
those?
what kind of skins are you laying on? What are these here?
Deer skin.
Those are deer. Want to make sure.
These are just necklaces that were made with beads that the Indians would have got from the white trader, and these are made out of bone. They're called bone pipes.
What kind of bone?
I don't really
A little
know.
bit of bone, huh? Maybe this one here.
Probably pieces of deer bone or buffalo bone or whatever.
Neat, huh?
What about that thing?
What is that? What would you guess it as?
A dead animal skull.
Yeah. What kind of skull? What would you guess it?
Deer.
A deer?
No way. Buffalo.
It looks quite similar to a buffalo, but I think that one is from a cow.
A cow. Plain old cow.
What are those? That's not like a bull.
Which?
Oh yeah.
Well, those are hide. There's a deer skin there, and there's coyote skins, and a beaver skin. That one's a beaver skin there.
We had to kill them.
Did you try the hat on? Did you see this? This is a bear?
No.
Real bear. Oh, you look good. You look good. They keep your head warm?
This gun and this gun I made, and the other two guns that fellow there made.
That would be used as a bowl.
Dana. Dana. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one that's far away, she made. And the other two.
Powder horn. Look back, Susan.
What's this? What is that?
What part? Necklace? That's a microphone.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of technology.
Ooh, a horn. Cool.
Well, I represent a Scottish trader. They would have dressed like the Indians that they were doing business with. You want to remember, this trader was making his living with the Indians. He was living with them, selling to them. He depended on them for his living. So he would have acted and dressed quite similar to the Indians.
So that they felt comfortable.
And stuff. That was mostly the men wore the beads and the trade silver and so forth.
It'll be fun to play in with.
That one is a deer skin. But when you trap a beaver skin, it has to be tagged by the DNR until it's sold. No, that's a coyote.
Oh, this is wild.
Yep, there is.
You guys want to come see the wood carving? Oh, this is boy.
Mm-hmm.
Why is bones in the tail?
Well, whoever skinned it didn't skin it, so.
Can I get you to turn around this way and sort of ask him some questions about the beaver belt? You get in there close.
Okay, the reason the tail was left in this one is because they don't usually use that anyway, and whoever... Oh, no, this one's just right. The bone's taken out of the tail on that one.
Is that right?
Yeah. Most of them are. It's generally the bone's taken out. Now you want to remember, as far as trade with the white man, the beaver skin was the most valuable. So in many cases, if the trapper would have used coyote skin or something like that to make his own clothes and his own hats and so on, and he would have traded the beaver skin because, or sold it because that was the most. They took the beaver skins all went to Europe where the hair was used to make a fine grade of felt, the felt hat. Yeah, they talked about beaver hats.
What combination you guys got there? Yeah. Yeah, what do you got, a compound bowl there?
Well, I tell you, blacksmithing, you got to go where it is now, not where it was. It was in every farm country. Every farmer had to have something to repair his little minor. But now you got to go where people specialize in it. Southern states, Indiana, Kentucky, and people have got some big homestead over there. One thing I could do here is drill a hole in these. Yeah, I got a couple of friends who do that. One guy does it by hand. The other guy does it on a strip hand. Like the sander over here. Yeah. He pounds bean knife. He's a good craftsman. See, they got a club in Michigan Artists Blacksmith Association. They got about 130 members. And it's like a union or anything else. There's only about less than 75 are real active. You ever belong to a union, go to union meetings? Wait till I get enough heat here. And that got to do here is make the horns area the first. A little harder working outside than it is in the shop because it's hard to judge the color of the metal. You're always supposed to work on a shade, like turns down to a point. Once we get them worked down to the area, we got to split them. Work it when it ain't so hot. Got to get a chisel here where it's easier to hold. We're going to bend that all the way back. When you put a nick on it, you got to control bend. It bends right where the nick is. You don't put a nick on it and liable to go anywhere.
Tell me this is what you're going to make again here?
Right here, this ram's head right there.
Where are you?
It's going to be a small one. Keychain, totally going to be a... And then her white background.
Sunshine, you are my sunshine. Mountain, and she'll be coming around the mountain, and the valley is Red River Valley. Sunshine Mountain Valley. Okay, now you got it. We are so clever. Ready? 1, 2, 3. written because she goes with her band to play at St. Timothy's Church for regular dances there. So, hence, March of St. Tim's. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Body of bird here. And all of these will be spread. I'm just going to be mad, I got water. You know, to make the wings. So, in the flowers, even though the fan goes around, it still is one piece of it. Still all locked into.
When I was in Finland, as a matter of fact.
Did you?
They're Christmas birds.
Okay.
Did you run on it?
No, we got two here.
Okay. Can I, why don't you put them together? There you go. And bring your weaver down so that it's next to the base here. We have to keep the weavers wet so that they'll be pliable. This is something that the Indians used to do when back in the times they made their own baskets so that they can gather their things from the woods and carry it back to their home. Do you need some help over there?
No, it's all done. Yeah.
You want to make it a little taller? Okay. We'll get another piece out here. Here. Can I get it started for you? I'm just going to put it behind a spoke here where you've ended.
I just put it in one paper to start with. See what happens.
There. And you can start, keep going again. Would you like to try one?
Indians like carrying things, right?
Right, the Indians carried things in them, and a lot of the people would use the baskets for different reasons. They would have like an egg basket, and they would gather their eggs in it. And it was the shape of a basket so that it would hold the eggs and they wouldn't jar them. And they wouldn't get broke by the time they got them to the house. There's a lot of different types of baskets. Most of the baskets today are more decorative, and people use them in their homes for different reasons, but there's still a lot of your old baskets. Leaves and things. Well, the one that I have has a handle.
If you want to go to a park that most other people aren't in, you should go to the Howie
Maybe
State.
Grandma will give you the tulip and you can give her the heart. Swap.
Well, I think this is marvelous. You just sit here and do this.
Oh, it's cool. Isn't it cute?
Okay. Tin punch was an old pioneer craft. The pioneers used to decorate pieces of tin and such as sconces that they would put on the wall for their candles, and they would like to make them look a little fancier, and they would punch holes in the tin with make patterns to make it look pretty. Backwards.
What color do you have? Red or pink?
Pink.
What do they price on?
Stylus.
I think I want it.
You want to do another one? Okay. Then we'll pretend that you're just learning. Yeah, let's pretend that I haven't shown you yet. Okay, this is okay. This is called a stylus, and you just take it and you punch through each of the little dots and make a hole.
You're reading. I might do another one if I get this done.
That was the first one I did.
You know where the queen is in here?
Yes, I can find the queen.
I'll go over here.
Okay. Okay, can we see the queen?
I'm picking up a truck again or something. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Okay. I guess it is important to note that honey was one of the early sweeteners in America besides maple syrup. There were no honeybees as we know in the United States at first, or in this country. They were brought over from Europe. The most prominent bee we got is what they call the yellow Italian. Okay, this is how your basic hive starts out, with a piece of beeswax foundation with the cells embedded. This way you get nice uniform combs. This is how your honeycomb starts out, with a piece of beeswax foundation with the cells embedded on each side. And the bees spill out from there. They make the wax from honey. It takes them about 8-9 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. Okay, see, here's a comb where they're starting to build out the cells. Put honey in it and cap it over with wax. Okay, here's one comb that's just about full. To take the honey out, you take a hot knife, cut the cappings off on each side of the frame. And you stick the frame in here. And that spins it up as centrifugal force. Of course, it should be nice and warm, like 70 degrees or more. You turn the frame over to get the honey out on the other side. Now this is what the comb looks like when the honey is all out. All nice, uniform, 6-sided cells. So the next time it'll be less work for the bees. All they have to do is to maybe do a little bit of patching here and there. As long as the comb isn't broke, they can keep using it over and over. But the one thing we do have to watch when we store them in warm weather, that moths don't get in. Moths can get in and they'll chew the whole comb right up. Okay, and bee smoker. When you start working on a hive of bees, you put in a couple puffs of smoke, lift up the cover, a couple puffs of smoke. When you blow smoke in there, they eat themselves full of honey and they're gentle, just like people or anything else. When they eat a lot, they just don't care. Okay, and then you go in. Okay, every so often, like every 2 years, you should replace your queens. So you get a good, vigorous queen in your hive. Anytime you get a queen that's over 2 years old, the chances the swarming are great and your hive doesn't build up like it should. So these come from Hawaii now. There's been 2 different mites in this country. So we get them from Hawaii. They haven't got mites in Hawaii. Okay, there's a little bit more yet.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, to introduce a queen into a hive, you can't just let the queen out, otherwise they'll kill the queen. So what do? You take this cork out, put a small hole through the sugar candy, insert it in the hive. The bees chew their way through the sugar candy, release the queen. By that time, they're acquainted with the queen and will, in most cases, accept the queen.
Mommy and Daddy,
Hey, want to tell me about the bees or the queen or something else?
Okay. This is the basic hive.
what keeps your hive going. This is what we call a brood frame. There's 8 of them in one big box, and you got 2 big boxes to a hive. This is where the queen lays the eggs. The eggs hatch into larvae and become adult bees. The queen lays 2 kinds of eggs, fertilized and unfertilized. The fertilized will develop either into a worker or a queen, and the unfertilized will only develop into drones, which are the male bees. Now, your workers live 6 weeks in the summer, they wear themselves out, or 6 months in the winter. But your queen can live a couple of years, and your drones, they only last for a season. In the fall, they'll drive them out to conserve feed. Okay, one worker cell, build a peanut-shaped cell out of wax, and that'll become a queen. The queen gets a different diet. First, a worker bee first gets royal jelly, then a coarser food. The queen gets royal jelly through her entire brooding period. Worker bee hatches in 21 days, and the queen only takes 16 days. So it's the type.
In the herb garden at the Frankenmuth Historical Museum, one of our sections is dedicated to herbs that would have been brought by the German settlers when they came, things that they were familiar with at home, that they used in their everyday life, sage that they used in a lot of their cooking, lemon balm, which they called Melissa, that they used for teas, caraway that they used in their baking of their breads, calendula, which was used as a flavoring and a coloring in their food, chives that they used in cooking, and thyme, which they also used in cooking. They brought these things with them so that they had something that they were familiar with from home, and they planted them in small gardens next to their doorways so that they were easily accessible. Okay, today at Folklife, we will show you what some of these herbs look like growing in our garden that were the same herbs that the settlers used. Sage.
Give me a second. Oh, hang on.
Okay. Oops, sorry. Sage.
Hold right there. Okay, tell me what that is again.
Calendula. Fruits in that for a lemon flavor because they couldn't get lemons. No, we don't.
What do you do?
We have a sprinkler system.
Is it the
and that,
water?
yeah.
It must
Yeah.
be where I have mine is too dry.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that it's watered, but it's kept constantly at, the same moisture all the time because the sprinkler system comes on a regular basis, and so it's all, the moisture's always there for the plants.
So it's the moisture that's the food, because a lot of them like pour soil.
This is thyme. Every week, like if you're sure that it's getting an inch of moisture a week or something.
Okay, so just start off clogging was and tell me what you think it was.
What you just said.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about clogging because I haven't studied it, but it did originate in the mountains of Appalachia and probably in Kentucky too, from people whose ancestors came over from Europe, where they did Irish jigs and they did the Scottish dances and dancing in Europe, and the people in the mountains didn't have a whole lot to do, so they formed sort of their own version of what was or what they had done in Europe, and they had American people playing American songs, and I'm sure they adapted some of those steps to American music, and it turned into kind of like a clogging, stomping thing that they did for fun.
That's what folk life is all about.
That's what mountain life was all about. That's what folk life was all about.
Okay, anytime you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, this is our annual Folklife event at Frankenmuth Historical Association, and one of the traditions is pretzel baking. We used to make our own dough. The very first Folklife event, we had a Mrs. Bruns that made her own dough. And we rolled, dipped, and baked them downstairs on the porch. The oven from upstairs was hauled down. We baked them. Well, in no time, 2 little bowls of dough were gone, and the people were just craving these pretzels, so Mrs. Bruns went home and whipped up another double batch of dough. And then after that, the hotels, Bavarian Inn or Zenders, would make dough for us, and they would form them into little balls and stick them in the freezer. We would pick them up and bring them over, and they would thaw. Sometimes it would take hours to thaw, but then like today is a very humid day, and these things are just blossoming, you know, and they're getting to be too huge. But we always have quite a few volunteers, members that belong to the Historical Association, or sometimes they are non-members. But we've enjoyed doing this for, I would say, at least 15 years.
Thanks. Perfect. Now we're going to get some pictures you guys are doing here.
Okay. In English? Okay, first of all, we take this wad of dough and we start rolling. I use my fingers. Some people use their palms, but I'm used to using my fingers. And as you roll, you stretch the dough until it gets to be the right length. Of course, some people like small pretzels, some like large ones. I try to do mine all the same size. You twist twice, bring both ends up, and stick them to the top. And there's a meaning to this, like we call it a crossing of your arms, or prayer, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Okay, get back here and get that in focus. Okay, do that, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit again.
The 3 holes in here, to me, the meaning is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Maybe some people have seen that symbol of the pretzel. Okay, to twist the pretzel, ich tue es einmal über 2 und noch einmal, und dann tun wir die 2 Enden auf. Und das macht noch Vater, Sohn und Heiliger Geist. I'll do it in English. You twist the pretzel and you bring the tops up, and the symbol is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
I'm dipping the
people out there know what these are? Besides this group. We get the prize. A bunch of people beating the heck out of them. These are hammer dulcimers here. That's a blacksmith back there. Then we have a line of auto harps. And we have a mandolin back here, and a dobro, and the bass, and a harmonica over there in the end. Did I get everybody? That's it. Oh, tambourine. Oh, then the four All right. What about Petronella? Something a little Petronella, it's an old fiddle tune. They were right. Gloria, why don't you do it? You can do the right one. I was doing a different one. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Talk a little bit about
where it came from, how it came into my family.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. What I do is cedar fan carving. It's an old lumberjack's pastime. It's been passed down to me 3 generations in my family. The first fan that was made in my family was made by my grandfather back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he said it was just a pastime. They made them and threw them in a box, and the old cooks would use them in the morning to get the cook stove fires going. And then he taught my father. My father came up with different style of birds and things, and then I learned to do it about 9.5 years ago, mainly to show my daughter something that their grandfather did and something that their great-grandfather did. I do it pretty much the same way it was done back then. I use Michigan white cedar and a good sharp pocket knife. I don't know what else for you.
That's fine. Hang on now, we'll turn this. Okay, you can tell me again what you're doing here so I can keep track.
What I'm making here is what was called the lumberjack fan. And this is what my grandfather learned to make back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This one's got a wormhole in it. Then we got a fan. Now the only difference between a fan and a bird, we leave more wood on here. Make something like this here. It's all one piece of wood, all made out of Michigan white cedar and all done with a jackknife. Then these are like some of the other old types of carvings that was done in that time period. A pair of pliers and the ball and the cage.
All right, hang on. Show me the pliers again. I'll get a little close up there.
Right. This one's getting wet.
Yeah.
That's all one piece of wood.
Okay.
I like the ball and the cages.
Hang on a second here. We'll get a little different angle on that one. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So the ball and the cages out of one piece of wood. These are all old lumberjack pastimes, and all done with a jackknife.
Let me get super close on the ball. I just want to catch the ball rolling back and forth there. Let's see here. All right, roll that thing back and forth. That's good. Okay. And maybe the chain.
And this is all one piece. This has got 2 different types of ball and the cages in it. Got the little one here, the round ball and the round hole, and then the 3 in the...
Okay, we'll get a close-up of the chain work here. good. And I'll get a full.
Teamster during the logging days. Somebody showed you how to make a fan. Using a piece of cedar, good sharp piece of wood, good sharp knife. It's all one piece of wood off. I think this guy's money. Let me get it back. Now put in a foam. What the foam does? Yeah, if it dries out, that's something. Water. Green, and I don't know if you
This is some white cedar?
Yeah.
I'm with Michigan Friends of Traditional Music and Dance, and the main instrument in our group is the dulcimer. It's the hammer dulcimer that came to the Americas in the 1600s. And on this instrument, we play a lot of the old-time fiddle tunes that came across in the European tradition. We do schottisches and polkas. It's the folk music that came from Europe that applies very well to the dulcimer, and we help keep it alive. Henry Ford used the dulcimer in his band when he was big, and it helped really keep the dulcimer alive in Michigan. There's a lot of dulcimers in this state and a lot of players, and we always need the guitars and all the other stringed instruments, the string bass, the mandolin. Fiddle is a good instrument, of course, and we just try to keep alive the older tunes. We do a lot of the tunes that the pioneers would have sung to around the campfires in the evenings. We play for dances, square dances, and contra dances. So we do the type of music that they danced to when our country was just forming and up through the present day. We are not seasoned musicians in the sense that we're well trained musically, but we do have a lot of fun together, and that really makes it the folk tradition because we learn songs by ear mostly. So each song changes a little bit, and that's pretty true in any folk style thing. It's passed on by word of mouth rather than to be written down, and this is exactly the way you have to do things. It's a teaching thing when you're doing folk things. And our group just really enjoys what we do to get out and let other people hear the music that made America great and have a good time with each other and just travel and meet other people. And that's the main thing that we enjoy about folk music, and that's our contribution to folk life in the 90s.
Okay, everybody. This gentleman is with the Historical Society here in Frankenmuth, and he has asked if he could take Edelweiss being played. So if we could have the jumble, the talking underneath kind of cease during this song at least, so we get a nice crisp recording of Edelweiss. And we'll do it as before. We'll do it 3 times, and he can edit any portions he wants that way. But not as fast as we do. You're going to set the tempo. Your boss. And he's going to be moving around with the camera a little bit. So, just enjoy. Not as fast as we're going to do more. 1, 2, 3.
You don't want to be
Folklife event in Frankenmuth shows demonstrators and artists of, no, cancel that one. Okay. Our annual Folklife event, no, I got to get Frankenmuth more in there.
Oh, Frankenmuth.
No. Yeah, isn't that what I said? Yeah. Oh, okay. Our annual Frankenmuth Folklife brings demonstrators and artists to Frankenmuth to show people how they worked, lived, and played in 19th century Michigan.
Okay, let's change, instead of showing people, let's say show our visitors.
Okay.
Oops.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay. Okay, our annual Frankenmuth Folklife event brings demonstrators and artists to Frankenmuth to show our visitors how they worked, played, and lived in 19th century Michigan.
Okay, one more time.
Hi, goodbye. Our annual Frankenmuth Folklife event brings demonstrators and artists to Frankenmuth to show our visitors how workers lived and played. No. This is terrible. Do you do this to your students all the time? This is why I'm out of school. Oh, this is awful. Okay. I don't know. Can you hear all this background stuff?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? Okay. Our annual Frankenmuth.
Folklife.
You probably can do it better than I can. You whisper in my ear as I'm trying to say, right? Our annual Folklife our annual Frankenmuth Folklife event brings demonstrators and artists to Frankenmuth to show our visitors how they worked, played in the 19th century of Michigan. I didn't do that right.
How people worked and played.
Doesn't sound right, does it?
It should be how the people
saw.
Hold on.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. Our annual Frankenmuth Folklife event brings demonstrators and artists to show our visitors how they worked, lived, and played in 19th century Michigan.
Very good. One more time.
Does he do this to you all the time?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Our annual Frankenmuth Folklife event brings demonstrators and artists to show our visitors how they worked, lived, played in 19th century Michigan.
Okay.